Support for Radio Friends comes from La Brunerie Financial, where they work to ensure a lifetime of financial security for people from all walks of life, from investment services to retirement plans. If you're looking for a trustworthy company that has the experience and knowledge to put your interests first, contact La Brunerie Financial, a community-based investment counseling firm since 1966. And welcome to Radio Friends on Monday, March the 7th. I want to introduce you to Kristen Schulte, who is with us from Missouri River Relief. Good to have you here, Kristen.
Thank you so much.
We were talking before we came on. We used to do regular segments with Missouri River Relief, and then when COVID struck, everything has been scaled back a little bit with you guys. But we're glad to have you back, and hopefully you'll continue visiting with us.
Of course, yeah. Thank you so much.
If folks aren't familiar, tell us what Missouri River Relief is all about.
Yeah, so we are a nonprofit organization. Our mission is to connect people to the Missouri River, and we do that through river cleanups. I think that's what we're best known for. We do river education programs, and we do recreation events on the Missouri River as well.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for the past 20 years. It's actually our 20th anniversary, and we just picked up our 1,000th ton of trash.
1,000th ton of trash. I don't know if I'd say congratulations on that, or that's a sad statement.
It is.
I mean, it's wonderful that you did that, but when you think about it, you picked up 1,000 tons of trash in the Missouri River and along the Missouri River. Why? Why does that happen?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is has to do with how much we consume of things that are one-time use. We use it and then dispose of it.
Yes, that's true. But we can dispose of it in a responsible way.
Right.
We can recycle it, or we can at least take the energy to put it in a trash can, not toss it along the river or on the ground when you're walking.
Right.
And that's what's sad. The lack of respect that so many of us have for the environment. But what you're doing is wonderful. But when you say you picked up 1,000 tons of trash, what would happen? Where would that trash be if you had not been cleaning it up?
Right. So, yeah, a lot of what we found in the very beginning of the organization was really big pieces, like giant tires, tractors, things.
Tractors?
Cars, things that would get picked up in a flood and then moved down the river and then get stopped somewhere, and the river wouldn't move it, after that. And so we removed a lot of that larger stuff.
So some of that was inadvertent. It wasn't done intentionally.
Right. But a lot of what we see now is plastics. And I can tell you of experience last fall of being on the Missouri River near Kansas City. And it was during a teacher workshop, and it had just stormed, and it was a plastic parade that came down the river. We were motorboating upstream, dodging little plastic water bottles everywhere.
Because it had washed into the river.
Yeah, and it was instantaneous. How fast that plastic traveled from that storm straight onto the Missouri River.
Yeah. Go ahead.
All those storm drains connect.
Right, and that's something I was saying. A lot of times people don't realize that the storm drains are going directly into a stream or a river. That's why if you're washing your car and it's running down into a storm drain, all that detergent that you're using to wash the car is going into a storm drain.
Right.
And ends up in the river.
Yeah. So that is, part of why we kind of have these three different emphasis of our mission, that picking up trash isn't going to just solve the equation. It's part of it. The other part is education. And so one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today was a new education resource that we have available for teachers in Columbia, Missouri.
Okay, so talk to me about it.
Yeah, so it's called Missouri River Scientist, Traveling Trunk, And the trunk is available for teachers to check out within a 30-mile radius. And it's all about this endangered fish called the Pallid Sturgeon. And I brought you a picture of it because it's kind of hard to picture, but that's one of them.
It's called the Pallid Sturgeon. And it looks like, it has a long nose. For people on the radio listening to it, it has a long nose, almost looks like a dolphin's nose.
Yeah, it reminds me of a dinosaur almost.
Yeah.
It's got these little barbels that hang down from its mouth. It has really tiny eyes, all because the Missouri River is so mucky and murky. It's hard to see.
Is it only found in the Missouri River?
It's found in other places, and there are other types of sturgeon, but the Pallid Sturgeon is the one that is endangered and in the Missouri River.
Okay, how did it become an endangered species?
Well, it has an interesting, life story. One of the first reasons why scientists felt that the Pallid Sturgeon was endangered was not enough adult Pallid Sturgeon able to reproduce and not having the right habitat to reproduce. So they started with a recovery plan of building chutes, which they dug these channels that would kind of wind. They would be alongside of the river, and they were meant to be shallow water habitat so the adult Pallid Sturgeon could swim in there and breed. They were successful in some ways and in other ways not. And so as they researched the Pallid Sturgeon more, they found that where the Pallid Sturgeon was really struggling was after they would lay their eggs, these little embryos float miles and miles down the river, and they would just get swept up in the current, and they weren't strong enough to get out of the current, and they would starve. Or on the upper stretches of the Missouri River, they would float into a dam where that water just stops moving.
Yeah.
And their buoyancy was a lot more dense than they thought at first. And so those embryos would sink down to the bottom and they would starve. So now what they're doing is creating another habitat called nurseries, which I think are super cute. And that's just for these little baby Pallid Sturgeon.
And it's working?
And it's working. So, that is an interesting thing about this endangered species is that it's a two-prong approach.
Sure.
And so that's what we're teaching the kids in our traveling trunk.
And how important it is. Every species that we have is important. It's important not to lose them.
Right.
Not to have them disappear. If teachers would like to have this, what do they do? We're almost out of time.
Go to riverrelief.org and look for traveling trunks on the front of our webpage.
Okay, riverrelief.org. Look for traveling trunks, and teachers can have one of these trunks to teach in class.
Yeah.
And it is free of charge.
Yes.
All right. Will you come back again, Kristen?
Of course.
Thank you
Paul.
so much. Thank you so much for visiting with us today. That's extremely interesting. And the Pallid Sturgeon is going to be okay. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right. If there's something you'd like to hear or see, please drop me an email. Let me know. That's pepperp@missouri.edu. When you go out and about today, be nice to each other. All right.